How many English rules do you know for gerunds and infinitives? 5, 15, 20? Well, if you know more than 60 rules, then your English is at the genius level. In this video, I'm going to take you through 66 rules that advanced English speakers must know in order to use gerunds and infinitives properly every time. And don't forget to pick up your free PDF for this lesson at my website, englishwithrupert.com. The main rules. So let's start with gerunds. Gerunds occur when we turn verbs into nouns by adding ing at the end. They could be the subject, object, or complement of a sentence. And in these three examples, we see each of those. In the first one, speaking is a verb with ing and it's the subject of the sentence. It comes from the verb speak, we add ing onto it and we can make it the subject. Speaking is an essential skill. In the second one, we have speaking as an object. I practice speaking every day. Practice is the verb. Then we have speaking, which is made up of the verb speak with ing to turn it into a noun form. And then in the last one, speaking is the complement. An essential skill for language is speaking. So here, speaking is a complement because it describes the subject, an essential skill for language. Now, instead of using a gerund, we can use to+infinitive. This combination is often used in the object position, but only occasionally in the subject or complement position. So in the first example here, to speak is an essential skill. You'll only very rarely hear speak put in the subject position with to in this way. The second one is where we have the object, and this is very common. I want to speak English. And then the final one is less common again. It's in the complement position. The entry requirement is to speak English. So these are the basics of the gerund and infinitive, but there are lots more advanced rules and complications that you need to know to get to a high level. How to choose. Now, when using the infinitive, you need to know that sometimes to+infinitive is short for in order to, plus the infinitive. And when we use it like this, what we're trying to say is that we're fulfilling the condition of the verb that comes after. Such as in this example here. To pass the test, you must follow the advice. And really that's short for in order to pass the test. You must follow the advice. So when you see to+infinitive in the subject position, quite often it's actually going to mean this. It's fulfilling the condition of the verb after it. There are no clear rules to dictate whether a verb is followed by a gerund or to+infinitive. But verbs that express intentions are often followed by to+infinitive, such as the verbs here. I plan to visit relatives this weekend. I expect to arrive at 8 p.m. I hope to see you later this evening. Plan, expect, hope, and there are many other verbs which express intentions. If they're followed by another verb in the object position, that verb will take to+infinitive in many situations. Also, when we're talking about mental processes such as seems, thought, believed, and more. These are followed by to+infinitive as well in general. She seems to be satisfied. It is thought to be the oldest place in the city. They are believed to be hiding in the forest. So all of these are mental processes. Follow those with to+infinitive. It's not a fixed rule, but it is a general principle that works a lot. When we're talking about likes and dislikes, we often switch back to the gerund form. Not always, and as we'll see later in the video, some of these like and dislike verbs can take both gerund and to+infinitive. But as a general principle, most like and dislike related verbs will take the gerund when they're in the object position, such as I enjoy arriving on time, I detest being late. Other verbs that commonly go in the gerund form are verbs to do with interactions. We discussed going south for the holidays. I mentioned travelling with our cousins. I recommend carrying your clothes in a bag. Gerunds and infinitives with the passive. So when we're using the passive form, there are certain principles that help you decide whether another verb is going to be in the gerund form or to+infinitive. The first principle to know about is when we are reporting senses. When we report senses, we often follow the past participle of the passive verb with a gerund if we are using a verb in that position. So some people were heard whispering in the corner of the room. So some people were heard. So here we have the passive form of hear. So there are people who heard some others. But what's the next word that comes? It's from the verb whisper, but it's now in the object position. So we need to choose gerund or to plus infinitive, but because it's a sense, we often will choose to use the gerund form here. Some people were heard whispering in the corner of the room. Another verb that behaves in this way is the verb see. They were seen leaving before the sun went down. So leaving is in the gerund form. Now you will sometimes hear the to plus infinitive used after see as well, but in general you'll hear the gerund. However, when we are reporting instructions with the passive form, we'll often use to plus infinitive, such as in these examples here. They were advised to take extra lessons. We were expected to dress formally. She was required to complete a form. Advised, expected, required. These are verbs that are reporting instructions, to plus infinitive, after it if they come in the passive form. Gerunds and infinitives with different types of word. Now let's look at using gerunds and infinitives with prepositions. Now the general rule is this: a verb can become a noun when it comes after a preposition, and such verbs usually take the gerund form, except when they follow the preposition to. So I'm tired of travelling. Tired is an adjective. Of is a preposition. So because of is a preposition, travelling goes in the gerund form. And it's the same with interested. She's interested in sightseeing. So in preposition, sightseeing comes from the verb sightsee. Add the ing. But with to, we use the infinitive. She was happy to find a cafe on site. But when this verb follows an adjective, we usually switch to plus infinitive, such as it is interesting to read about its history. I am proud to introduce our latest recruit. This picture shows someone who's having a difficult time because of the loud music, and she says, I am sick of listening to your music. So when we have adjective, then preposition, then verb, as we saw in point 11, the verb takes the gerund form. Now, what about when we're using possessives? When a possessive introduces a verb as belonging to itself, the verb becomes a noun and it takes the gerund form. Look at the examples here. I like her acting. So her is a possessive. So it's making acting belong to the person. And here we use the gerund form. I like her acting because it comes from the verb act. Similarly, in the next one, I'm late for the collection of my shopping. So shopping comes from the verb shop, but my is a possessive that makes shop belong to me. And in this case, use the gerund shopping, my shopping. When a noun suggests an action is required, we commonly use to plus infinitive for the action, such as here. My proposal to travel to India was agreed by all the family. So proposal is a noun here. And sometimes we can put the verb as another noun after the first noun. So my proposal to travel to India was agreed. To travel turns travel into a descriptive word describing the proposal. In other words, my proposal. What proposal? Oh, to travel to India. Go and come. Now there are some interesting rules that go specifically with go and come. And the first one is this. After go and come, use the gerund if you are focusing purely on the activity of the verb. So if you say, let's all go running, the focus is on the activity run alone. And in this case, use the gerund form. And you'll see how this is different to some other examples in a moment. When the verb represents an activity constrained by time, though, use to plus infinitive. For example, I've come to run in a marathon. Now, why is that different? When we said go running, we're focusing just on the activity of running. But if we say I've come to run in a marathon, now the activity of running is constrained to a particular event, a marathon. It's got a start time, it's got an end time. If this is the case, switch to to+infinitive after come and go. Certain verbs usually take to+infinitive when following go and come as well. For example, the verb to work. When are you going to work? So here we only have the activity work. But in this case, we just use to+infinitive. We would never say, when are you going working? Or are you going to come working? It's always to work. Let's carry on with more rules for go and come. A number of verbs can complete the structure go, come, followed by and then bare infinitive. Why don't you come and play with us? Go and ask your mother first. It's quite common to have this structure. Come and do something. Go and do something. But very informally, especially in American English, the word and can be dropped altogether between come and go and the bare infinitive. So we end up with stop bothering me. Go play. Not go and play, but just go play. Or come play with us. It's informal, but it's very common. Gerunds and infinitives after modals. So when we use modal verbs such as must or could, can, would, will, if it's a one-word modal, we'll follow it by the bare infinitive. That means the infinitive without to. So you must speak to me now. I couldn't make it to dinner tonight. But when we're looking at semi-modals, such as have to, ought to, dare to, need to, all of these are followed by the to+infinitive. So you have to stay off the grass. That's with have to. With need to, I need to take this course. You ought to take more care with your driving. No one dared to say anything after the manager told them off. So one-word modals, bare infinitive, semi-modals, to+infinitive. How to choose. Now we're looking at choices you can make with some verbs, where more than one structure is possible, such as here. Some verbs that are usually followed by a gerund change to this particular structure, verb plus noun plus to+infinitive. So one verb that does this is advise. Now, usually advise is followed by the gerund, such as people advise renting in an area before buying a property. But if you insert a noun in there, such as we advise you, then you switch from the gerund to the infinitive. We advise you to rent before buying. Another verb that does this is allow. We allow fishing in this lake. They allowed us to fish in this lake. Also encourage. I encourage using a dictionary in this test. Perhaps that's your teacher speaking to you. But they could also say, I encourage you to use a dictionary. So see, adding you in, adding the noun in, changes it from the gerund to the infinitive that you require. Another one is permit. We don't permit cheating in this school. I permit you to use a phone to check the answers. There are a small number of verbs that can change between the gerund and to+infinitive with no meaning change at all, such as begin. I began to work on a new project. I began working on a new project. Both are acceptable. Also continue. We continued to work into the evening. We continued working into the evening. And hate. I hate to work at the weekends. I hate working at the weekends. It's one of a few verbs to do with likes and dislikes where you can use either form. Similarly, like. The gerund is often used here when it ends the clause, by the way. So I like to sing while I'm walking to work, but I like singing. So here I like singing is I like the subject of singing. But when the person says I like to sing while I'm walking to work, what they mean is their own singing. I like doing this myself. Whereas if you say I like singing, it could mean doing it yourself, or it could just be the subject of singing. It could be someone else's singing. Another verb that works like this is love. And again, the gerund is often used when it ends the clause. I love to walk in the park. I love walking. And again, the second one is the subject of walking. It could be your own walking, but it could be even just talking about walking, which might be a bit strange, but grammatically, that's the possibility here. Also with start. I started to walk when I was called home. I started walking, but then I was called home. No meaning change, gerund or infinitive, both accepted. Meaning changes. Now we're on to verbs where you switch between the gerund and to+infinitive when there is a change in the meaning. And we'll start off with stop. I stopped to talk to my friend. I stopped talking to my friend. What's the difference here? If you stopped to talk to your friend, it means you stopped something in order to start a new activity. So talk is the new activity here. I stopped something, maybe driving your car, and now I'm talking to my friend. So I stopped to talk. I stopped talking to my friend, though, means that talking was the previous activity, and you stop that. Next, remember. I remember to talk to my friend. I remember talking to my friend. Now, remember plus to+infinitive means you remember to do something at the time. So I remember to talk to my friend. It was at the moment I remembered that I went on to talk to my friend. But when I say I remember talking to my friend, at the moment of remembering, you're thinking about the past. You're thinking about a past situation where you talked to your friend. With forgot, it's similar. I forgot to talk to my friend means I forgot at the time to talk to my friend, but I forgot talking to my friend means I forgot something from before that time. I forgot that in the past I was talking to my friend. How about this? Have you ever tried to do this? I tried to surf, but I fell off the board. I tried surfing, but I wasn't very good at it. What's the difference here? So try plus to and then infinitive means you made an effort. But tried followed by the gerund form means it was just an experiment. You were just experimenting with something. It doesn't emphasize the idea that you tried really, really, really hard. Whereas tried to surf means it was very hard for me. I had to make an effort. Usually you say this before you fail, but sometimes you try to do something and you succeed afterwards. What about regret? I regret to tell you some bad news means I wish I didn't have to. I regret means the regret is for myself. I wish it wasn't necessary. But I regret being unkind to my sister means you're thinking about something in the past that you're sad that happened. I wish I hadn't done this in the past. I wish I hadn't been unkind to my sister in the past. What about with the verb mean? I meant to arrive on time. Here, meant to arrive. Meant here means my intention was this. My intention was to arrive on time. But I mean getting to the station at 9 a.m. is completely different. If you say I mean followed by the gerund, then you're saying in other words. You've said something before and you're trying to re-explain yourself. To put it another way. In other words, to explain in a different way. This is all what I mean followed by the gerund is for. And with need, there's a change between the infinitive and the gerund again. I need to help. Now here it is necessary for the subject to do this. I need helping. It is necessary for someone to do this for the subject. So in I need helping, I am the one who requires the help. If you say I need to help, someone else requires the help. Go on is a phrasal verb that also has a change in a similar way. Will you go on to study at college? Will you go on studying next year? Now, go on with to+infinitive means do this in the future. So go on to study at college means in the future study at college. But go on studying means you're already doing this and you're just going to continue doing this. Will you go on studying next year? Yes, I will go on because I'm already doing it and I'm going to do it more in the future. Now, the verb prefer is an interesting case because it can be followed by a gerund or an infinitive, but it is often followed by a gerund when comparing to something else and an infinitive when not comparing. So we have, do you want to walk? No, I prefer to run. Now, that's where we're not comparing to something else. But if we are directly comparing to something else, I prefer running to walking. We wouldn't say, I prefer to run to walk. That would be something completely different. So there's that difference which is worth knowing about when you're using prefer followed by another verb in the object position. Bare infinitives. Now we're going to look at a range of verbs that are followed by the bare infinitive without to. And the first one is let. I'm going to let you join the team. So it's not let you to join the team, but let you join the team. And you'll notice a pattern with some of these verbs is that they often have that noun in between the first verb and the second verb. Also with make. Could you make him try harder? So make is the first verb, then him gets in the middle, that's the person it's directed to, and then try is the second verb, no to before try here. They helped the visitors find the right path, and also would rather. I would rather have a nice walk in the country than go out in the city. Not I would rather to have, just I would rather followed by the bare infinitive. And you may occasionally in an informal situation use this structure, why not? After why not, we'll use the infinitive. So for example, I don't want to go to the same place on holiday this year. Why not try visiting another country? There's a small range of verbs that can switch between the bare infinitive or the gerund. So a reminder, the bare infinitive is the infinitive without to, and the gerund the ing form, such as the verb see. I can see the plane coming into land. I saw the plane come into land. So coming and come both used. However, the gerund form often emphasises a sense of activity in that moment. So if I say I can see the plane coming into land, then I'm emphasising the fact that this activity is happening at the moment of speaking. Also, watch. I'm watching the neighbours laughing. I like to watch people laugh at jokes. So if I'm watching the neighbours laughing, then that's an activity happening right now. But I like to watch people laugh at jokes. Well, this is a more permanent, habitual, repetitive thing. It's something that I like in general, whether it's now or any time. And with here, they heard me singing in the bedroom. Or in my bedroom, they heard me sing in my bedroom. Little difference in meaning here. I felt the wind blow in my face. I felt the wind blowing in my face. So feel is another verb that acts in this way. Gerund after to. Now we're so familiar with the gerund not having to in front of it. But there are a few verbs and verb phrases where we do use to in front of the gerund. So let's learn them now. Firstly, get around. When are you going to paint the fence? I'll get around to painting it soon. So get around to painting it. To followed by the verb paint with the ing form. Also with look forward. Now this is often used in formal writing. If you're writing a formal letter, you may finish by saying, I look forward to hearing from you. To plus the gerund. Be accustomed. I'm not accustomed to living in such a cold country. So if you move to a country that looks like this with lots of snow, but you come from a hot country, you might say this. I'm not accustomed to living in such a cold country. And similarly here, I can't adjust to working in the rain. So after adjust, to gerund form. Here's another one. Confess. The thief confessed to stealing the car. So confess means they said, yes, it was me. You didn't know before, but now I'm telling you, yes, it was me. So confessed to, followed by the gerund form again. And admit works in the same way. The thief also admitted to lying to the police. Now, here you could say the thief also admitted lying, but admitted to lying also works here as well. Be devoted. The police are devoted to reducing levels of crime. Be dedicated. I am dedicated to improving my IELTS score, and I'm dedicated to improving your IELTS score as a teacher too. We are committed to meeting energy targets. Be committed to +gerund. Be opposed. I am opposed to punishing children in schools. Object. I object to making children study for more than 8 hours a day at school. So here, object is a verb meaning I disagree with something, not object as in what comes at the end of a sentence. Be used to. I am used to taking my holidays in a hot country. I'm not used to being so cold. And get used to. I can't get used to learning online. I would rather learn in a classroom. And don't forget to pick up your free PDF for this lesson at my website, englishwithrupert.com.